And starting with the top story at this hour, Prime Minister Narendra Modi has issued his second video message in less than 24 hours, marking a direct appeal to students and their families amid the NEET paper leak controversy. In his midnight address, the Prime Minister hailed the resilience of India's youth, called the paper leak a grave injustice, and defended the government's handling of the crisis. He said the re-exam was conducted to ensure the students did not lose an academic year, asserted that those responsible have been jailed and promised a stricter action, including a new law to be introduced in the parliament next week. This video message comes as the centre prepares for a crucial third round of talks with the CJP, which continues to insist on Education Minister Dharmendra Pradhan's resignation before any resolution can be reached. Listen in.
Thank you, friends. कल देर रात आपसे मिलने का मौका मिल गया। मेरे जो वीडियो पोस्ट किया था उसको जिस प्रकार से आपने रिस्पॉन्ड किया, सकारात्मक सुझाव दिए, थैंक्स टू एवरीबॉडी। ये आपका प्यार बना रहेगा, हमारा नाता और अधिक सक्रियता से जुड़ता रहेगा। थैंक यू दोस्तों, थैंक यू फ्रेंड्स।
Initially, one was that was you have said was non-negotiable. Dharmendra Pradhan's resignation. There were two more demands, which government has assured you on something. What are the current demands and where the status is?
So we made three demands, and there have been positive developments and in principle agreement on 1 crore compensation for the NEET affected families, and second, no legal case against the protesting students and sovereign guarantee of all future cases. So there has been an in principle agreement on these two demands. As far as Dharmendra Pradhan's resignation has been concerned, we have made it very clear it's a non-negotiable thing. That's exactly what the future of this country wants, and they have to either sack him or he has to resign.
So when you said the demands is first demand is non-negotiable, how did the talks go ahead?
It was a decent talk. They heard us out. They reasoned with us. We gave our reasons. We told them about the sentiment of the people of this country. How this is no more about CJP or the people who are protesting at Janata Manta, but how this is now a national movement where people all across the country are out there on the streets protesting against the regime.
How would you take this forward if Dharmendra Pradhan does not resign?
So we hope that there will be positive development on minister's resignation. Otherwise, we'll have to give another national call similar to 20th July. But however, it will be a much bigger call than the 20th one.
All right, joining us now with more information is CNN News 18's Aman Sharma. Aman, a very good morning to you and thank you for joining in on the broadcast. Of course, we just heard Prime Minister Modi. He put out a second video in less than 24 hours addressing the youth of the nation and thanking them for their valuable positive feedback. Now, of course, the CJP and the government do appear closer to a dialogue than to a confrontation, but the core demand here remains unresolved. The government is pushing for policy reforms, whereas the CJP is going for accountability. So how do you anticipate these developments moving forward?
Well, Shreya, see, there was the round of talks which happened yesterday. The CJP handed over a letter to the government, and our colleague Simran actually accessed that letter, and the letter is very, very clear. They want their three demands are completely non-negotiable for the CJP. Number one is, of course, the resignation of the Union Education Minister, Mr. Dharmendra Pradhan. Then they want compensation for the families of all the suicide victims of the NEET case. And then they also want a public apology from the Delhi Police Commissioner, the RAF head, the Government of India for the what they call as brutality carried out against the students who participated in that march. They also want the withdrawal of all the cases filed against the students and the protesters on 20th July and before that. But that said, I think the government is amiable to the last three matters about compensation, about these cases being withdrawn and not being pursued, because the government also doesn't want students to face criminal cases which compromise their academic career. So the government is positive towards that, and they told that to Sonam Wangchuk also. But as far as the resignation of Union Education Minister Dharmendra Pradhan is concerned, I don't think the government is so far willing to relent on that. That will be seen as succumbing to pressure. And I think the government is very, very clear that the resignation of the minister is not going to solve any purpose. What will solve the purpose is systemic reforms in the education system so as to ensure the paper leak ghost does not rise again. Already steps are being taken since yesterday. At yesterday's union cabinet, we saw amendment bill being passed to a 2024 law that also the Modi government had brought to make it more stiffer, to make the sentences bigger, to make the fines bigger, to ensure that the people who are arrested for paper leaks don't get bail, so that there are fast-track trials within months, day-to-day hearings. So the government is saying that, look, we are looking at systemic reforms and we are wanting to finish off this problem of examination paper leaks once and for all. The resignation of the minister won't solve the purpose. That is the feeling in the government, I would say, right now, not to succumb on that particular point, but because since the CJP has made it a non-negotiable, and Sonam Wangchuk though relented on it, but the CJP is not relenting on it, neither is the opposition actually relenting on it. The Congress party, Rahul Gandhi and others will have to wait and see through today how the talks go. There's another round of talks scheduled for 3 p.m. today between the CJP and the government, where the government will come and tell the CJP representatives, about what they thought about their demands when they discussed it with the top leadership. So we'll have to wait and see what the government really tells the CJP leadership at 3 p.m. today, Shreya.
Certainly. The talks today are very crucial. But also, Aman, how do you see this divide that's now forming between Sonam Wangchuk and the CJP? Sonam Wangchuk has ended his 26-day hunger strike and has appealed the youth to be more amicable to the government solutions. And he has expressed some optimism regarding the reforms that the government is now starting to take. But the CJP, we just heard from the spokesperson, they don't seem to back down on this proposition. They are very hell-bent on the resignation of Dharmendra Pradhan. But how do you see these talks going forward? Because they've also warned, if they really don't get what they want, the agitation plan for Sunday is going to go ahead.
Well, yes, Shreya, there are clear differences now between Sonam Wangchuk's point of view and the point of view of the CJP. There have been attacks also from inside some in the CJP camp. Even the Congress party has attacked Sonam Wangchuk yesterday. Why did he have to break this fast at the hands of the union ministers? Many are raising question marks over him in that camp, and that has really upset Sonam Wangchuk as well. Look, one thing is very clear, that Sonam Wangchuk is saying he has left it to the wisdom of the government on whether they want to change the union education minister or not. He said, I can't dictate to you. It is your choice. If you consider it positively, good enough. But I am happy if, the cases against the protesters are withdrawn. That was his number one demand. But the CJP has adopted a very maximalist position. They say the three demands are non-negotiable. So clearly there is a difference of opinion between Sonam Wangchuk and the CJP. Also, very interestingly, Shreya, Sonam Wangchuk has repeatedly said that he's against violence. He doesn't want violence to spread in the country on this count. But when the CJP says that, if you don't agree to our demands, we will launch a big, massive protest on Monday, marching to parliament, countrywide protest. This is also raising the specter on could there be violence then? So clearly there seems to be complete, I would say, on certain points, there is difference of opinion between Sonam Wangchuk and the CJP. The government found Sonam Wangchuk, more amiable, more reasonable to talk to. And that is why you saw two senior government ministers. So speaking to Sonam Wangchuk, the same two ministers, Mr. Jitendra Singh and Mr. JP Nadda, are now talking to the CJP as well. So let's see how things go. I think things are a bit fluid right now because the negotiations are on. So, we don't really know which direction this could take now. But one thing is very clear, that the government is very, very committed, and they have said it. The Prime Minister himself has said it, that they are committed to complete education reforms in this competitive examinations matter, so that no leaks happen. Will the students and will the CJP be satisfied with those assurances of the government? Well, remains to be seen.
Certainly, the Prime Minister has addressed the youth twice in less than 24 hours. Of course, we will have to see how these third round of talks go forward. Aman, thank you for joining in and bringing us all those developments.